So in this chapter, we'll be discussing about trade blocks. So in the earlier chapter, we discussed about European Union. Let us see some trade blocks related. Trade blocks is a related concept. It's not. It's not like Euro where we have a unified market or all countries having free access of goods and people, single currency. That's not. That's different. Trade block is where normally what happens is governments protect their local industries from foreign competition. Say for example, in India we have a lot of TV manufacturing companies. Okay, say the price is around 20,000. Now imagine Chinese manufacturers who make these TVs for a lower price because their manufacturing cost is less. Say for example, they are able to sell at 15,000 rupees. That's a huge price difference. Okay, and if this is allowed, people will start buying those Chinese TVs. And what will happen as a result of that? Indian companies manufacturing TVs will lose business, and ultimately they have to close down. And it's not just TVs; it applies to every other product. If we don't have any restrictions on import of foreign goods, okay, what we call as tariffs, okay, if you don't have these restrictions, if we allow free movement of goods from all other countries, our local industries will suffer because we may not be competitive either price wise or quality wise. Okay, so to avoid such problems, what governments usually, this is not just Indian government, across the world, all governments, what they usually do is they impose something called import duty. So for example, import duty on TVs right now is 28.85%. So what happens with this additional duty, Chinese TVs will now cost not 15,000, but if you add on this import duty, it will be 19,327, which is almost the same as the Indian TV price. In this way, government protects local industries. Okay, this additional cost imposed is known as tariff. However, sometimes out of friendship or also out of economic necessity, okay, this can also be due to political reasons, some countries form together like a group and they allow free trade between them. Okay, then in such cases there will not be restrictions. For example, we'll see some of the examples in this chapter. So these agreements are called free trade agreements, and such groups are called trade blocks. So trade block is an agreement where the barriers to trade, such as tariffs, are reduced or even altogether eliminated. So say for other countries, normally we have 28.85% import duty. Maybe if it's the country not trade block, maybe we'll reduce it to say 20% or 10%, or we can totally make it 0%. Okay. So there are many who oppose this idea of trade blocks. So this is a very debatable point. There are people who oppose this idea of trade blocks because they argue that trade blocks are encouraging regional free trade at the expense of global free trade. Because if you look at it carefully, by imposing this additional duty of 25.85%, a TV which the Indian consumer can buy at 15,000 competitive price from Chinese manufacturer, they now are forced to pay the additional amount just to protect the local industries. You might argue that protection of local industries is important. Okay, otherwise businesses will close and will affect the Indian economy, right? That's a valid point, but at the same time, the Indian consumer is also affected because there is an option to buy a lower price TV from equal of comparable quality, of same quality, but because of these restrictions, you are not able to avail that option. So there are people who argue against this idea of trade blocks, and there is a debate going on. We'll discuss some of these debates in another chapter related to World Trade Organization. But for the moment, let us see some of the popular trade blocks in the world. So there is NAFTA, ASEAN, SAARC, India is member of the SAARC, BRICS, EU, Mercosur. Let us see each one of these very briefly. NAFTA stands for North American Free Trade Agreement. This is a trilateral trade bloc. 3 countries are involved here. There's US, Canada, Mexico. So these 3 countries are very tightly integrated economically. Okay, so there's free movement of goods between these 3 countries. And this is the NAFTA agreement. Then there's ASEAN. ASEAN is an association of Southeast Asian nations. It comprises of 10 countries: Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Brunei, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam. India is not a member of ASEAN. Okay. Then there is SAARC. SAARC, India is a member. SAARC stands for South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. Its members are Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal, Maldives, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. Okay. So this is a regional intergovernmental organization, geopolitical union of nations in South Asia. Then there is BRICS. It's a relatively block, maybe formed just 3 to 4 years back. This the members here are BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Okay, so this is an association of the 5 major emerging national economies. These are fast rising major emerging national economies. So these are all leading, developing or newly industrialized countries, fast growing economies, and they have significant influence on the regional affairs. So these 5 countries If you look at the population, they represent 40% of the world population, 3.6 billion. Just the population in these 5 countries accounts for 40% of the world population. And 4 of its 5 members are in the top 10 of the worldwide population. And these 5 nations have combined GDP of 16.6 trillion, that is equivalent to 22% of the world gross world product. So these are very influential countries, okay? Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Then there is a trade bloc called Mercosur. That's not that much important. It's a South American Latin a trade bloc comprised of Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay, Venezuela. However, Venezuela is suspended since December 16. Then there is G20. G20 is a very powerful forum. It stands for Group of 20. India is a member of G20. So it's an international forum for governments and central bank governors from 20 major economies. So the members are Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, France, Germany, India, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, Mexico, Russia, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, South Korea, Turkey, UK, US, European Union. So you can see just by the names, these are very powerful countries. Okay, collectively they account for 85% of the gross world product. 80% of the world trade is here, and 2/3 of the world population, approximately half of the world area. So just these 20 countries are very powerful across the world. Okay, just these 20 countries are accounting for 80% of the world trade. Then we have seen EU. EU is a European Union. It's a political and economic union. We discussed all this. It's a single market, its policies. Then there's something called a Schengen area. The passport controls have been abolished. Okay, so there's an area where they have officially abolished passport and other types of border control. Okay, so in respect of groups of countries, you sometimes come across a few other terms which you need to remember. One is a currency union, also known as a monetary union. So currency union means 2 or more countries sharing the same currency without necessarily having any further integration, such as economic or say for example such as economic and monetary union, which would have in addition a customs union and a single market. Okay, so there are 2 terms here. One is a currency union, another is economic and monetary union. So economic and monetary union is a type of trade bloc which is composed of an economic union and a monetary union. Economic union means common market. Okay, monetary union means they also have the same currency. So in case of EU, European Union, a monetary union was established and is composed of 19 countries. So even though European Union has 28 members, only 19 use the common currency euro. So that is a monetary union. The other 9 members continue to use their own national currency. Okay, so that monetary union of those 19 countries sometimes referred to as Eurozone. So sometimes you hear this term also, you should be able to explain what is meant by Eurozone. So those 19 of the 28 European countries who implemented euro as the currency is known as Eurozone. So the ECB, the European Central Bank, is governed by President and the Board of Heads of National Central Banks, such as they set the monetary policy for the Eurozone. So then there is another group called BIMSTEC. BIMSTEC is not a free trade agreement actually, but you keep hearing this term BIMSTEC, so it helps to know what this is. Basically members of here are Bangladesh, India, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Bhutan, Nepal. So these are countries that are dependent on Bay of Bengal. Okay, so it stands for Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation. So the main objective is technological and economic cooperation among the countries along the coast of Bay of Bengal. Okay, so the areas covered are commerce, investment, technology, tourism, agriculture, fisheries. Okay, so in this chapter the questions need to be prepared are why do governments impose import duty? This we discussed to protect the local industries. What is meant by tariff? What are free trade agreements? What are trade blocs? Name some popular trade blocs. What is the full form of NAFTA? Who are members? Full form of ASEAN, its members. Name some members, okay, not all members. You should be able to tell at least 2 to 3 members. Full form of ASEAN, its members. Full form of SAARC, some of the members. Is India a member of SAARC? Yes. Is India a member of ASEAN? No. Okay. What is the full form of BRICS? Who are the members of BRICS? Is India members of BRICS? Yes, it is. What is Mercosur? What is G20? Name some members of G20. Is India a member of G20? Yes. Why is G20 a very powerful group? We discussed this. What is currency union? Or what is monetary union? They can ask you. What is economic and monetary union? That is different. What is Eurozone? What is full form of BIMSTEC? And name some members of BIMSTEC.